Brian will get rolling, but I ran into Brian when he first started coaching my brother at 14, when you were at NorCal Baseball, and I was struck with how organized you were. I still have it. You had a nice little binder for every kid on plays and base running and defense, and I was like, wow, this guy's got it figured out. So you worked with NorCal Baseball. You've coached at the junior college level at Ohlone, and you're now working with CCB Baseball with Eric Raish. You've done some stuff with Butch Bacala up in Rancho Cordova, so you've got quite a background in everything. So what did I miss when I was talking about you there?
Nothing much. I'm glad my money to all these guys are going a long way to give me some props. But yeah, I've definitely had a lot of good mentors, starting with Rick Raish. Back when I was 18, I hurt my arm pretty well. So I said, you know what, I got to do something with my life. And Coach Hines actually came up to me where I was working and said, hey, you want to coach pony baseball? I said, yeah, sure. So I started coaching pony baseball, and that's where I met Rick Raish. And Eric was 13 at the time. So Rick actually took me underneath his wing, and, to have someone like that come and talk to you about it. So I've had him, obviously Rob Bruno, who does a lot for kids at the travel ball level, who just knows so much and gives you so much connections to work for. So I had him, and then Butch comes along, and I've always tried to surround myself with people that I can learn from. And, I've had great guys I've worked with, including now with Amador Delgado and Rick Martinez, and, started off with my best friends, Corey Nishaw and Matt Rook. And so, yeah, I've been very blessed through my years to have great mentors. Yes.
And that's the thing is, surround yourself with good mentors and see what happens. And, not only do you grow from them, but they end up growing from you in some way or fashion.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's what it's all about. Just continue to grow as a coach. And once you stop learning, that's when you stop coaching. And so you always got to grow no matter what. And it's funny because baseball, you have these great guys who've been in the pros and everything. And I've learned from those guys too. But even the guys that didn't even get through college baseball, or even some of the guys just around the streets, who I played with, who coached me when I was growing up, they weren't very baseball savvy, but they taught me a lot of life skills and how to deal with people and how to compete and all that. And you listen to those guys, and sometimes those guys have little tidbits that you take and you're like, you know what, that works. So I think no matter what you're doing in life, whatever you're working with, you just look and learn. We all steal stuff and all share stuff with people, and that's what it's all about.
No question. Well, the thing that everybody was pumped up about you're talking about was base running. And, I think it's a lost art. We have catching coaches, pitching coaches, hitting coaches, but there's really no quote unquote base running coach. The base running coach, is kind of assigned to somebody that says, here, you coach base running. And sometimes they're not as well versed in it. So talk about some things, Brian, that you find important about base running, from an overall, like a helicopter view of base running.
I think base running just starts with a mindset. You got to have a mindset that you can be a good base runner. The stigma is get your best athletes, and those are the guys that are going to make the difference on the base paths. And that's not the case at all. It's about learning the techniques and learning instincts and trusting yourself. And I think the biggest thing is just coaches need to have that mindset that you're going to teach base running. You're going to, whatever style you want to be, go with it, and don't be scared to call whatever you're working on in a game, and take time to perfect it. I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't take time to go over base running. They think, oh, we'll go over steals, we'll go over, getting back and stuff like that. But it's about going through the whole process and going through your whole checklist. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I have my checklist from home to first, first to second, second to third, third to home, and the trick plays that I have, my first and third offenses and stuff like that, where, every 15 minutes right after we stretch, we go into base running. I know my guys don't like it sometimes because we'll spend 15 to 20 minutes a day just going over base running. But you know what, when it works and they see it and they see the difference that it makes in games, they start to buy in. And then once you get that buy-in, that's when you can go and really have fun with it.
Yeah, and one of the things I put in your in the write-up about you was um, Greg Bergeron, who's up in Washington State. Bergie talks that base running is an instant upgrade for offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a critical part in this whole thing, is that base running can really, you don't have to be a fast person to be a good base runner.
No, you don't. I mean, one of my best base runners of all time was actually Blake Diggle. I don't know if you know who Blake Diggle is, but he's a, big 6'2", 250 kid who, 225, who, wasn't a speed burner, but the guy would take great leads, had great instincts, read ball and dirt, loved the delay steal. He perfected the delay steal. I mean, he led our team in base running some years, and look at him; he's not very fast. And another guy who looks fast is Alex Blandino.
Yeah.
Alex Blandino, actually, I learned a lot from base running from just being around him because of his instincts and the way that he was just smooth in his movements and the way he picked up on little things that pitchers did, that he could take that extra 90 or have that just being able to see the little intricacies of what the pitcher's doing and get a great jump on that. So, I mean, you don't have to be fast, but what you have to be is willing to try it and do it. I mean, a lot of people, they're scared. You give them the steal sign and they're like, well, I'm not a base stealer. Well, hey, let's go with it.
Right.
We're going to learn with it, and we're going to, trust your muscle memory that we work on in practice and go with it.
Sure.
Because base running, it affects the whole aspect of the game. It's not just stealing bases. It's about, it's about what's the job as a pitcher for a hitter? It's balance, getting them off balance, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with base runners. Your job is to put the defense on their heels and to have the defense thinking 24/7 and not being able to take plays off. And when you have those little hamsters turning in those heads on the defensive side, and the pitchers are thinking, oh man, I got to hold this guy on. Now they're changing their deliveries. They're going with more fastballs, giving our hitters better pitches to hit. And, you take that slight bit of concentration off the hitter, that's when it's a pretty good thing. And then it just translates.
Yeah. And that's when
everyone wants to do the job.
That's when magic happens, because all of a sudden now that hitter's getting a fastball, or maybe they get a breaking ball because they're afraid you're going to steal, or, it's a big deal. So talk about base running starting in the dugout. Let's begin the conversation there.
Yeah, so in the dugout, I mean, what a good base runners to do, and I try to tell our guys this is, hey, it's kind of lost now because in travel ball you don't have guys taking in and out very much, so you really can't see those arms, but you could still kind of see the way they play catch and what they do. Plus, you're trying to time the delivery, and I even like our guys sometimes checking the bullpen and seeing if these guys what their stretch time is. And seeing, because that's what I'm looking at too. Is I'm not just looking over there and seeing if the guy, he's throwing 90s or 8s. I'm looking to see how does he, when he switches out of the stretch, what is he doing? What's his leg kick? What's his hold time? Where's his positioning? And then I'm trying to see what is his best pitch, because a lot of times those guys are showing their best pitch early on. How is his breaking ball? Is his breaking ball good? Good. Then I know that he's probably going to go to it, and that gives our guys, hey, when our 3, 4, 5 guys are up. Hey, he's probably going to come with that breaking ball because that's his best pitch. Let's try to get off early. Let's try to really work on getting them early. And so just that aspect. And then when they do take in and out, you want to see the outfielders' arms. You want to see how they play catch. Are the infielders more of guys who get the ball and like to take that nice, easy glide step and then try to get it? Or are they guys that get rid of the ball fast? So, I mean, if you're doing hard 90s, I know it's a big cliche, but it's something that we stress hard on our team is giving those hard 90s. If you're doing that, man, you're going to get these infielders on their heels, these outfielders coming up, trying to get to balls, maybe taking bad angles. So it's all about seeing that stuff early on.
Yeah, for sure. First question of the night that came across was from Corey. He said, youth, high school, college base running is effective. Why is it not effective in the big leagues, in your opinion?
I just think it's lost now because everyone's going to the power game. It's all about, what happened to the sacrifice bunt? People don't want to give up outs anymore. It's about, using those 27 outs they're given, and those guys are big, strong guys now where they're getting those hacks in, and it's just the way the game's going. But, I mean, you look at ESPN now, and what are they doing? They're running like these old 80s, 90s, showing the Cardinals and everything else, and I'm just pumped. I'm just there and with a big grin on my face saying, geez, look at Willie McGee going at it right there. Look at Ricky getting those stolen bases in, and that's where I love it. I mean, I think as a coach, you kind of go back to who you were as a player, right? And when you first start coaching. And, you know, when I was growing up, I was always the smallest little runt on the field, and I had to do the little things. I had to bunt, I had to hit and run, I had to run and hit, I had to steal bases, I had to try to change the game defensively. So I think when I got into that and I saw Mike Luna, who was one of the greatest base coaches of all time down in our area, the South Bay,
Yep.
I saw the way he manipulated games with just the base running. And it just like, you know, I was like, oh man, I got to talk to this guy. Yeah. And then when I got into it, I wanted to be like the air raid offense. I wanted to be stealing. I wanted to have fake steals, delay steals. I wanted to do double steals, double squeezes, hit and runs, running hits, you know, dragging runs. I wanted to put everything into play so that when people had to prepare for us, they were thinking a lot more than just reacting and letting the game come to them.
Yeah, and that was one thing when my last year at Stanford, we did a couple of times. We'd go back-to-back hit and runs or back-to-back squeezes. If you missed the first one or whatever, we'd go right back. Even if we fouled it off, we went right back to it, and it caught so many people off guard because they weren't ready for it.
Oh, it's true. I remember at Los Gatos, I was coaching third base, and Vinny Augustine was up, and he just whiffed on a squeeze. And I just, you know, I was just like, oh my, what, you know, I gave him a look, gave him a talk, but then they already knew that, hey, if you miss it and we're safe, we're going right back to it. Right. Because a lot of teams are like, oh, you know what, they're not going to try it again. They just screwed it up, and this guy's head is swimming because his coach is yelling at him. We put it down again. Yeah,
for sure. So you talked about the mindset and the dugout, and it makes sense to watch the guy in the bullpen. Talk about from home to first, you know, some keys for you going home to first and what's important that you stress to players and things like that.
The biggest thing is just stressing that hard 90. I mean, no matter if it's a hit back to the pitch, I know it's cliche, or a ground ball, but even on a walk, we're sprinting to first. And if our guys don't sprint, there's that time early on in the season where I have to say, you know what, you're out. I got to set that standard. That doesn't matter. We're working this. This is a belief in our system. We're going to go hard. And I think it's getting out of the box. You know, I know a lot of people say, hey, you know what, put your head down and run. Obviously, that's not human nature. People are going to, when they swing, they're looking at the ball. I just say, hey, get your head down by the third or fourth step. Get your head down. And then if we're going through the bag in a straight line, then what are we doing? We're working hard 90 through. We're observing the first baseman's feet. And we're kind of, I don't want to be staring at it, but I want to observe it as I'm running past, because my eyes should be really focused around the grass area of past first base where the outfield grass is. So I'm running through. And then as I approach the bag, I'm chest leaning, hitting the front part of that bag, and then immediately going to breakdown. I want to break down, and I know there's different ways. We just teach it basically. We're spreading the feet, getting our base lower, turning our head to our first base coach, and so he's checking him to see if the ball went through or not. But a lot of times, the first base coach is huge in that instance. I like my first base coach to do a lot of base running drills when we're doing this, because a lot of times when the people say observe the first baseman's feet, the first base coach can see it. Right. So they can see the trajectory of the throw. So they should be saying down early so that they can slide into it there. If it's a base hit, a lot of times we're working hard on expecting the extra 90. I want our guys to try to get to second base. Now, will they be thrown out sometimes? Yes, early on in the season, we may get thrown out a few times. But as long as they start understanding their athletic ability and stuff and being able to eventually take that extra base, it's going to help us in the long run. So what we focus on is them understanding their bodies on the turn. I mean, I know a lot of people say, hey, here's our cone drill. We're putting cones out. You're making that good little, like, question mark, banana turn. Yeah. We're telling our guys, we want you to understand your body. Some of you guys are going to need to get wider. Some of you guys are going to need to can go narrower. But what we're working on is I want to see you come across first base in that inside corner with whatever foot comes up. I don't tell my guys necessarily left or right because I don't want them stuttering. Okay. But we're working hard on hitting that inside corner and getting this elbow lean, this shoulder lean, because we want to get down here so that when we make that turn, we're going 90s. Sure. The worst thing in the world is when we're going to the right center gap and we're getting thrown out because we're not taking good turns. So we kind of break it down into four areas. We'll work on getting out of the box, then we'll work on our turns, then we work on our shoulder lean, then we work on our bronco coming down to our breakdown where we're seeing the ball and then getting back to the bag. Sure. So we work on that in different drills where we'll do that, and then we'll start hitting the balls and having our outfielders do different things to have our guys read when they can take the extra 90 and stuff.
Yeah,
and I preach being aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the things that will happen is when you talk about having a hard 90 and being aggressive, you'll get those outfielders that maybe nonchalantly come up to the ball and then they bobble it. And if you're in full stride, next thing you know, you're halfway to second base, especially on a base hit to left field.
Oh yeah, of course. That's huge. And I think a big thing is you have to accept that sometimes they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
They're going to get thrown out sometimes. But you know what? I think too many times we're worried about the short term instead of the long term, the big picture. Okay. And as long as they understand that, hey, what did they do wrong in that instance? And then go back and coach them up on what they did wrong, because eventually it's going to happen.
Sure.
And I remember coaching a team many years ago at NorCal where we were playing in some backyard tournament and we were getting guys thrown out left and right. And, the parents are coming back to us saying, you guys just lost this championship game. And I'm all, you know what, guys? We did get thrown out. And we got picked off. We got thrown out. We made some silly mistakes on base paths. But, guys, it's going to help us in the long run as long as we take the mistakes we did and learn from them. Because every loss, there's a lesson. And if we can take those lessons and apply them later on during the road, we're going to be fine. And then we go to AAU, playing in the national championship game there in Virginia, facing a lefty on the hill from North Carolina that's throwing 92. Mm-hmm. And we got 2 hits that whole game, but we stole 10 bases. We did some small ball stuff, and we made the guy literally threw his glove down and said, I don't know what to do. I'm lost. Yeah. Coach pulled him. We ended up 10 running them, and we looked back, and I said, guys, remember when we were getting thrown out and your parents thought we were all idiots? Well, yeah. This is why, because we're trying to get you guys better for when later on the season, when it really counts, we can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Now we're at first base. Base hit. Mm-hmm. We've got a walk, an error, whatever. Talk about your leads. Do you have everybody going the same distance lead? Just talk about that.
So first thing we get to first base, we have to know 3 things: our outs, signs, and DA. Okay, so outs is obviously how many outs there are. The signs, what sign is on, and because of all the signs I have, we've gone to the wristbands. Mm-hmm. I started doing the wristbands about 14 years ago, because we had too many signs and guys were just missing them, so I had to give them wristbands. So they have to know their signs, and then they have to know their defensive alignment. Their DA. They have to understand that's huge, especially when you're trying to go from first to third or trying to go from first to home. It's just getting that extra jump. So that's what they have to know. Then when they're getting their leads, I'm a guy who wants them to use their athletic ability. We talk about taking a walking lead from the back side of the base, and we go right, left, and then we do our movement with that. From when he comes set, we can have movement. But I want our guys in their primary leads to drop step their right foot and open it up 45. So what's that going to do? That's going to help clear the hips so when we're stealing. So we try to work on that. And then I want our guys moving their feet. I want our feet to be in constant motion. And it's funny because I tell them that the very first time, and it looks like I swear it's like throw some Z Cavaricis on. They look like MC Hammer out there. They're moving their feet, and I'm just like, calm down, MC. It's okay. Let's just move our feet. Let's get some rhythm. Let's get our feet moving, because what's in motion tends to stay in motion. Make the pitcher stop your feet. So we really stress that. With knowing their athletic ability, use that as far as your distance lead. We have some guys that can take the 12, 13, 14 feet lead because they just have that athletic and that quick step and that first movement down. And we have guys that need to stay a little closer. But I want them to test their athleticism and trust their athleticism. Our feet and we move our feet. We have that right step in drop step, and then our hands. I'm just whatever's comfortable.
Okay.
I don't mind if they're here. I don't mind if they're down here. I want comfortable with explosion. So I want them just to make sure that whatever they are, they're driving here and making that first motion and not being wasted with their movement. Because I have too many times where I have big guys going way too low, and what's their first movement? Up.
Straight up.
So when they're in their primary, I want them to be comfortable, explosion, and use their athleticism to their advantage. And then we go from the primary to our secondaries. The 3 things I have to know in secondary is angle, contact, catcher. So angle, ball, and dirt, contact, and then obviously if the catcher gets the ball, we got to work hard back. And what I really stress there is their vision. You could talk about ball and dirt till you're blue in the face. But until those guys get their vision where they're picking it up and seeing it, it just never works because they're half step late. So we really work hard on covering. We cover the catcher. We put the big L screen in front of the catcher, and about 5 feet even. And so we have a big L screen, and then they have to see the angle. So they're really trying to test on seeing the angle, and go with your instinct. You know, if they see it, they're going. Then if it's a contact, we work hard on our timing. We want our right foot down on the timing of the pitch. So I don't necessarily say, hey, I want these shuffles or anything. I want them moving towards second with their vision, but their feet landing on time. So that if that ball's hit, they're automatically right foot down, go. Shuffle, shuffle, right foot down, go. If it is. If it isn't, they take 2 hard steps back with their vision on the catcher. So that's where we're working really hard on our primary and secondaries there.
Okay. So now we're still at first base. We got a right-hander on the mound or a left-hander on the mound. What are some keys that you talk to your base runners about when they're whether for pickoffs, that kind of thing? Guys say back knee. You know, what are your keys?
Yeah. So first, obviously with lefty, I mean lefty's easier. We're pretty much, it's either if first movement we're gone or we're not.
Yeah.
Unless there are some times where I'll say, hey, be late and go, because the guy just has no move whatsoever. But when we have a lefty on there, what I want to see is we take a little bit bigger of a primary, and then it's either go or no. And if it is, what I like to do too is I want to see our lefties, is the lefty we're facing predetermined or is he a reader? So what we want to do is early on, we want a fake break in his face, which means right when he lifts, we're just moving our hands. We're just moving our hands as we're going, our shoulders going, but our vision has to be on the pitcher. So we want to see, is he reading us or is he predetermined? So therefore we can try to get to see if we can change him up that way. Because if he's a reader, then he's going to pick, he's going to pick, he's not going. Then we can start changing him, because sooner or later he's going to say, okay, he's not going, and he's going to go there. Or is he a predetermined guy where we're just going to have to kind of guessing game sometimes? With the righty, we're going back heel first, and then we have a checklist. Now it's harder to do in travel ball, because in high school, college, you have your checklists. Is he a UCLA guy? Is he picking, where is he setting from? How is he changing when he picks, is he changing the distance between his knees? Is his head tilted? You know, there's a couple different things we can read with the righty. But to begin with, we're checking back knee, checking back heel, and we're working on from there. So those are some of the keys we work on there as far. But with the lefty, we're always trying to fake break in his face to see if he's predetermined or not. And then we're on first move if we're stealing. If we're not, we're leaning back, just a slight lean, kind of like I like to tell Michael Jackson, open up that front hip, and we're just working on that. And if he goes, we're going into our secondary. Okay. But if we're stealing, we're going.
Yeah, and I think one thing with lefties, sometimes those guys are easier to steal off of or get your secondary, because they have that mentality like, well, everybody's afraid of me. But there's certain things with lefties you can tell right away. You know, are they, is their front foot, lead foot at home plate? Is it for, does he have a wide base? Because if he does, he's really got to pick that leg up to come over to pick to you.
Exactly. And then you have the guys where are they glide step? Are they, most of the time what we start seeing with the lefties, because I love lefties. When lefties get on the hill, I'm just like, oh, perfect. We can start running. Right. And what do? They start slide stepping, and then when they don't slide step, they're going up. Right. They're picking. So, I mean, there are different things that we're looking at with the lefties, but most of the time it's just once they're first twitch, we're working on. So I'll stand over there during practice and I'll just twitch. Like, I'm always in movement anyway, but, I twitch and it's up to them to go. Yeah.
We had a guy that just jumped on, Mark O'Brien, who was the old Santa Clara head coach, who was at Stanford. Yes. Obi was an unbelievable teacher of base running and stuff, person I learned a lot from. So shout out to you, Mark O'Brien, who's an agent now with CAA. But talk about, secondaries, delay steals, things of that nature, Brian.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big thing with us is the delay steal. I love working the delay steal. And the delay steal with us is it's not two shuffles and go. we shuffle. Well, let me go back a little bit. First of all, when we're delay stealing, what we're looking for, are we looking for a catcher who frames? Is there a catcher who drops to his knees or puts his head down or really tries to sell that strike? Or are the infielders guys that really don't break at all? They know that they're not running and they're kind of still staying away. They're not really seeing after the ball's pitched, they're just focused on the location. They're not seeing the runner at all. So if we see one of those two things, and most of the time it's the catcher, then automatically we'll green light them for delay steal. And so a lot of times I like to give our guys green light. Like we have on our sign system, we have different colors on there. And if I yell a certain color, it may say, hey, if you have it, go with it with the delay steal. Because a lot of times those guys feel it. But what we're looking for is we're shuffle until the catcher receives the ball. Now, once the catcher receives the ball, that's when they go, unless they stand up. So if it's a ball that's up and the catcher pops up, then we kill it.
Okay.
And we move it on to the next pitch. It's automatic next pitch. So I don't give another sign. It's just automatically. But if the catcher catches it in his squat, then we're off on reception. So once again, it's another timing issue. They want to shuffle, just like they normally do, and they want to be on that front foot as the ball's entering that contact zone. So once that catcher gets the ball, they're off, and unless they lift again. So that's one of the big things with the delay steal. Secondary, like I said, we're shuffling. We want to be anticipating the extra 90. I call it anticipating. I don't want them cheating. I don't want their body turned like this, but I want them leaning with that front foot open, shoulders square, but we're leaning towards that, going that extra 90. So if that ball is hit, I'm in movement.
Sure.
Another thing we work on a lot is fake steals, because I like our guys to always be putting pressure. I mean, what does fake steals do? Sometimes the middle infielders start to move because a lot of middle infielders are not very, disciplined. They don't L to the bag. What they do is they just vacate. So maybe we can get a cheap single there by just doing a fake steal or vacating. Sometimes the catchers pop up, take away that borderline strike instead of framing.
Sure.
Ball might get even past them. So we work on fake steal. And the big thing with the fake steal is I harp to our guys all the time is head in. I don't want them dropping the head on the fake steal because we don't want to end up faking ourselves out where the ball's hit and now we're getting doubled up because we're not seeing the ball. So our guys' vision is always in on the ball on the fake steals. So we have fake steal, and then we have the fake steal, we have the delay steal, and then we have the straight steal, obviously, the hit and run. With the hit and run, what we work on too is vision. We want to look in. We're not dropping our head and trying to peek up at the ball. We're putting the onus on our hitter to put the ball in play and do that. So our vision is always in. So when we're moving, our vision's in. And then if something happens where he makes a mistake and misses the ball or something, then we put our head down and run. But it's never on them if they get thrown out. That's the one thing too, is I think sometimes coaches are scared to make outs on the base paths because they don't want to give those outs. I tell my guys, you know what, man, if you get thrown out because I call something, it's on me. I'll wear it all day long. You know, we're in the national, we played the MLK this year, and we're in the national championship playing the Arkansas Sticks. And they have 3 of the top 4 2021s, and their catcher's just, you know, the kid's just an animal. He's 1-8 to the 1-9 to the second, 1-8 consistently. And I got one of our guys thrown out, and you know, he came back, and I said, you know what, Park, hey, that's on me, man. That's on me. I made that mistake. You did everything you're supposed to do. Still stay with it. Still be aggressive. Don't hesitate. I'm never going to get angry if you get thrown out for doing the right thing. But if you get thrown out because you're hesitant or scared, then we're going to have an issue. But coaches have to understand, they call on some, wear it. It's on us. It's okay to make mistakes. Players need to understand coaches make mistakes too. We own up to it. As long as we own up to it, players start owning up to their mistakes as well.
That's a great point. So I'm at first base. You get a base hit. Talk about the things that you talk to your guys about, potentially going first to third, or just getting to the next base.
Yeah, so we're always anticipating the extra 90. So anytime there's a base hit, I want our guys going from first to third if we can. It's on them. So first of all, it all goes back to what? Our DA, right? Yep. So many times these kids turn around, they check right back out, like if they just saw, their mom getting out of the shower or something. They look and they turn right around. I'm like, what'd you see, guys? I'm like, how do you know what you saw there? I'm like, look, see it, understand it. Then when that ball's hit, they have an idea. They can get that extra break. if the ball's in front of them, it's on them. They have to make that call if they're going first to third. If it's behind them, it's on me. So it's look, touch, look with me. But if it's in front of, it's on them. And I want them every single time to anticipate that extra 90. So they're in their mind, I want them thinking, coach is sending me, coach is sending me, coach is sending me. No, now I'm holding you. So it goes back to that look, touch, look, but it also goes back to them getting out early. So they shuffle, base hit. They're already getting that turn out early to get that left shoulder dip, hit that inside part of that bag, and then they re-pick me up to anticipate the 90. But most of the time, they're reading it on their own because they kind of have the DA, and it goes back to their secondary. They need to be aggressive in their secondary.
Yeah.
Too many times you don't see aggressive secondaries. Kids are just either lazy or scared to get picked off by the catcher. But what you have to understand too is aggressive secondaries. If they backdoor us once, okay, that's fine. Now what do I know? Now I know that the catcher's froggy. We have the white call and we can try to set him up. You know, shuffle. Once we see this, we're off, and try to get him to kind of settle down on throwing backdoors. And it goes back to working hard back. But the biggest thing is them shuffling aggressive, getting that early turn, and anticipating the extra 90 at all times.
Yeah, and I think one area that sometimes gets overlooked when you talk about DA is what, is the center fielder, right fielder, left fielder, are they right-handed or left-handed?
Mm-hmm.
Because certainly if you're the left fielder is right-handed and that base hit takes him into left center, you got a better chance of maybe getting first to third on something like that, because he's going to have to inside turn just to try to throw you out. And so I think not only is that defensive alignment important, but also is that guy, is he right-handed or left-handed? That's a big deal. Oh,
definitely. It goes back to, and it does go back to kind of seeing that during the pregame that we have in JC ball, obviously, and high school ball, that's lost in travel ball. You just don't get to see that. So sometimes that's a very good point, though, understanding what they are in the outfielder as an outfielder.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you can look at, especially in warm-ups, is how do those outfielders, do they get the ball back in with an arc? Do they get it back in? They throw it, firm into the infielder. And the other thing is when they're throwing the bases. I heard this a long time ago. Raul Mondesi with the Dodgers had a cannon for an arm, but he had very little putouts, and the reason why is because he never gave the infielders, whether it's a middle guy or a third baseman, never gave him an opportunity to actually catch a ball. He was always throwing it, and it was top spinning or it was right at their feet. So that no matter if they have great arms, you could still maybe go to the next get that next base based on their throws.
Yes. No, those are great points. I mean, you have a lot of these outfielders now, especially now that you're playing travel ball. It's basically showcase ball. These guys just want to let it rip, let their arms go, not understanding throwing through the relay guy so you can hold the backside runner, or giving that base guy an opportunity to either long hop it or give him a straight shot between the knees and the chest area so we can make that tag. They're just airmailing everything. Sure. So
we got a question that just popped across for us, Brian, and you've been around some very, very good baseball players, travel circuit, and you get that complacency of a guy that's only looking out for himself. How do you motivate a quote lazy player, a player who has potential to be great but just isn't getting there? And you've been around some guys, and one thing that a lot of people say is you can really motivate and you can really give a lot of energy. How would you answer that question?
Well, I think the biggest thing is what motivates players: playing time. Sometimes you have those lessons are the hardest lessons to understand is that you need to be a better teammate than the greatest compliment you can get is being a great teammate. And if you can be a great teammate by doing the little things, hustling, working your butt off, caring about the team more than yourself. And if guys are not willing to do that, we bench them. And you have those expectations. I mean, I had Spencer Torkelson, probably gonna be number one guy, right? And I remember Spenny, this is when he earned my ultimate respect. He's a big guy on our team. We're in the national championship of travel ball select in East Cobb. And, he woke up late, walked down to breakfast, and just was being lazy. And I said, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, my mom didn't wake me up, and I was too lazy to turn on my stuff. And, it doesn't go to laziness on the field, but it was laziness as far as being a team guy.
Sure.
And I said, okay, Spenny, you're benched. You're not going to play. But coach, we're in the quarters. Spenny, we have expectations. If I don't bench you, how are these other guys going to take me serious? And what was the greatest thing was Spencer Torkelson was the first one leading the kids out and doing stretches. He was the first one warming up the right fielder. He was the first one putting on the shin guards when our second catcher went down with an injury, because he's like, coach, I'll catch. I'll be a secondary catcher. If the catcher's on base, I'll go warm them up. You need someone in the outfielder, a bullpen guy to go warm up an arm, I'll be that guy. When those kids saw Spencer working that hard, my laziest kid on that team, guess what they were doing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I saw the next couple games, guys were volunteering. Hey, coach, I got the foul ball. Hey, coach, I got this. Hey, coach, I got that. And also rewarding those guys. After the game, we had a thing called the Blue Ball Award. And it was something that I would give to somebody that did something that had maybe nothing on, like, was a big moment of the game, but did something that made us win that game. And so it might have been a pitcher who was charting, who saw a sequence in a pitch count. And that guy said that he told the next batter, and that batter knew what to look for and doubles off the wall. It might have been a guy who dove and saved the ball, saved a run early in the game, and we ended up winning by 1 run later on. It might have been the guy warming up the outfielders and was just busting on every foul ball. And what does that do? It creates a thing of saying, you know what, everyone has an important job here. And if I do my job, I am going to be noticed and I am going to be rewarded. But it's a buy-in. And if those guys are lazy, you have to teach them now that they're not going to be a part of your team. And that's just how it is.
That's a great point.
And it's a tough lesson sometimes.
Talk about we're at second base. We're at second base now. You've gone over looking at defensive alignments. Give me some of your main points when a base runner gets to second base.
So first thing, we're at second base. We're really, I don't know how PC this is now, but we're really trying to pick signs. We're looking to see if we can see a code going on with the catcher so that we can actually do something with that. Number 2 is we want to get the middle infielders seeing if they working hard. So I'm telling my guys, hey, I want you to focus on the pitcher. I will work with you guys on your leads as far as, perfect, okay, add, plus, whatever terminology we're working on, that's what we talk. And we're trying to get our feet in movement and walking into leads. We want to be walking into leads, and my guys know that if they have a walking lead, I give them the green light. I don't like to micromanage my base runners too much.
Okay.
I think that the best way for these guys to learn is by taking initiative and doing it. My job is to give them the tools, and my job is to give them the knowledge and to give them the fundamentals as far as footwork, to give them the mental knowledge, but it's up to them to take it on the field and go with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, we don't put, you got to let your horses run. And I know a lot of coaches, I say, hey, less is more sometimes. I get that a lot. Less is more. Oh man, if I have that horse and they're willing to go, let them go. Let them go. Let them go. So our guys know that if they're in a walking lead and they have that walking, they're going.
Okay. They're
going with that. Then we're reading ball in dirt. The only thing that changes at first base to second base is because of I didn't coach D1 obviously like you have, where you're going to see those arms and stuff. But in ours at first base, I'm saying when you pick up ball in dirt, we're gone. If you get thrown out, it's on me. If you have the good timing and you see ball in dirt, that's on me. At second base, we're reading early and seeing kick.
Okay.
So now we're trying to see, because it's hard to really see that angle, we're kind of seeing the catcher. How's the catcher turn?
Okay.
If the catcher turns his glove, then we know it's probably going to be ball in dirt. So I call him, hey, get froggy, get froggy. We're looking to extend off that. Then if we see kick, we're off. Okay. And then obviously what we're talking about too is they have to understand their athleticism and what to go on. Ball hit behind you, ball hit at you. Understanding your DA. Is a shortstop in your back pocket? If the shortstop's in your back pocket, hey, that 5-6 hole, it's okay sometimes to go from second to third. If you know that shortstop's in your back pocket and they have to take that drop step, go into the hole, go ahead and take third. But you have to be 100% sure that you know where your guy is at that time. So we're working on all that, and that's the one thing we try to work on in practice, more so with our high school teams and college teams, where we can really drill that. We hit balls and making sure they understand, and we go through signs even so that they can see the sign sequences. Or like Alex Landino was awesome with it. Alex Landino, even when he didn't have signs, he would start you know, just mannerisms. And what did it do? Those guys are saying, oh, these guys have our signs. They start changing it up. He had no clue what the signs were, but he made something happen. Now guys are they're mixed up in their signs because they're changing between pitcher and catcher or between the middle infielder. So we just like to create, we like to call it, controlled chaos. So we're always looking for that. But the biggest thing is creating momentum off second base.
Okay.
And creating holes.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. And at second base, you talked about. It's funny, when I was coaching, guys were more worried about getting picked off at second base than they were at first. And a lot of times, as coaches, we'll work on the picks to first all the time, but we rarely work on the picks to second base. And that's what I would tell guys is, hey, the chances of that guy picking you off are really slim.
Yeah, most of the times, what do you have? You have glove show. You have the shortstop showing it. Because what do a lot of teams don't work on that. Yeah. I always find it harder to run on local teams than national teams because the local teams work together a lot and they usually grew up together. Yeah. And so they kind of have that chemistry and they played together for so long, they have the picks down and system. When you're facing national teams, you're facing guys from all over. They don't work on that. Right. Their job is, shortstop's there, they'll flash and then they'll go. And I think another reason why they're so scared is they're closer. That's so true. They can, the pitcher is closer than when it's like at first base, you have that thing where do you take your lead more inside the base, or do you take it out behind the base? I'm a backside of the guy, but guys say, hey, you know what, coach? I know as a pitcher, when I see guys closer to me as far as distance, I think they're closer to the bag. Mm-hmm. So if you could actually gain a couple more than if you're playing from the backside of the bag, it looks a little farther, like they're a little farther off. So it's that whole depth perception sometimes. And I thought that was an interesting point that one time one of the coaches, Sal Vaquero, told me.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. One of the other areas that I was fortunate when I was at Stanford, Coach Marcos was really, really good at. He would talk about leads at second base, and that with nobody out, he wanted our secondaries to come after the pitch was delivered. Didn't want us to move. And with one out, he wanted us to move as the pitch was coming out. And his big thing was, with nobody out, we're only going to wave you home if you're standing up. With one out, we're probably going to send you, unless something is, just it's an easy base hit and you get thrown out by 100 feet, because he didn't want to have first and third with one out, and then all of a sudden we get a ground ball double play. So that was something that he talked about all the time with us.
That's a great point, because how many times do you just put your hand in your head because a kid gets picked on the worst inside move ever? Mm-hmm. Because they're taking that secondary lead way too early.
Exactly.
And so that's a great point. That's why I love doing this stuff, man. I'm learning just like you. I love it, man. This is good stuff. Keep chopping it up.
You're at third base now. Talk about, leads at third base, ball and dirt reads, that sort of thing.
Okay, so when we're at third, same thing, angle, contact, catcher. My biggest thing is with the runners on third, I want our leads as close to the line in foul territory as we can. Okay. I know that a lot of my guys are they get way back and they're pushing me into the third base dugout. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, we got to be in foul territory. I say, yes, foul territory, not into the other person's dugout. Relax. Because what's the quickest way to point A and point B? It's a straight line. Mm-hmm. So get next to that line. As long as we're not on it, we're fine. Let's get close to that line. And then we work on that timing again. It's so important, especially on the green light play, we call it. Run one out, hitter hits the ball into the ground ball. We're on green. We're on, downward angle. It's the timing. How many times do we see our guy getting that horrible secondary where they're up in the air when that ball's hit and they're rocked on their backside, and then by the time they get the body momentum. So what we're working on is being very soft with our feet and broncoing here and getting that. I know it's hard to see here, but we're getting here and getting that timing, our right foot down as the ball's entering that contact zone. And then once again, our vision is seeing the ball in dirt. Now what changes is, if it's early, I'll say, hey, be 100% sure on ball in dirt. And then if we have a guy who's just been struggling at the dish, or we have 2 outs, or, if there's 2 strikes on the hitter, I'll say, hey, get really froggy here. Anticipate, get froggy. So if they see downward angle and there's any chance, they're going. So even if it's 50-50, if I say be froggy, they're going. So that's the only thing that changed with ball in dirt there. But the biggest thing we work on is timing, vision and getting that lead inside, like right next to that line. I don't like my guys being too far back.
Okay, that's a great. Those are all great points right there, Brian. What are some other areas about base running? Everybody's at home right now. What are ways that kids, can work on their base running, improving those areas?
I think first step, really working hard. I saw you posting some first step drills, doing the first, getting your feet up and down on the curb and all that stuff. I think working first steps is huge. So if you can work on first steps. Second of all is staying low on your steals. So we're working on staying low until your third step, and then you're gradually going up instead of guys popping up. So being aware of body positioning when you're going into your steals. That's another thing. Second, have your mom, sister, brother, just be a pitcher and just work on different moves. You could work on that. Work on your straight line speed and breaking down. I mean, how many times do you see guys that don't break down and hold on, sorry. Once again, family thing right there. How many times do you see a guy not break down and the ball goes past the first baseman and you lose by 1 run?
Right.
I mean, work on that. Work on hitting that front side of the bag and then breaking down. There's been times where, I don't know why, but I guess because I'm just a little crazy, I'll stand there and say, hey, I'm 6 feet away. If you hit me, you're gone. You're running. And they have to break down before they hit me.
Okay. And
so they're working on breaking down and reading and then working on that first step going again. Why is it 6 feet? Because we don't want to break down too far, because then we have just, instead of like 92 feet, 93 feet, we have 110 feet we're running. So we're probably going to get thrown out there. So that's another thing. I like watching like these pros, when they're showing a lot of old games on, see if you can work on the pitcher's timing. Is he a UCLA guy? Is he a look guy? So at first base, we're working U, C. Obviously a lot of guys know that. And I tell our guys, hey, if we're working C, so on our card we'll have something like that. Trust it and go. See if it's something that you can work on. Is he a look guy at second base? Is he 1 look, turn, go? Is he a 2 look guy, turn, go? What is he? So you can see that on TV by just watching some old games and stuff, and just having more savvy on the bases is a big thing. But so first step quickness. I would work straight line with breaking down. I would work on body positioning, on staying low and gradually going up. You could even work your timing. I mean, I've been seeing guys, I know they're not supposed to, but they're going and doing pins. So if you see a guy, maybe you're a two-way guy, and some guy's doing a pin next to you, and you're waiting, see if you can get some timing with your secondary on him. See if you can get some timing with his movement. See if you can get some, even work on ball and dirt. I mean, these guys are working on, especially nowadays, they're working on their pitches in the bullpen because, it's time to get better with different pitches and stuff. Hey, see if he's working on his breaking ball, see if you can get that secondary, that ball and dirt read. I mean, there's always opportunities to work, always.
That's a great point. We got about 5 minutes left, Ryan.
Yeah.
If guys want to get in touch with you, because of what they heard from the base running standpoint, what's a great way, email, that kind of thing
Yeah. As you could tell, I'm not very tech savvy. Actually, I did my first tweet yesterday. I felt like, I felt like a big man. Like I was telling you before, I just haven't been on the social media because I've been teaching for 25 years. And you get the stories with these kids coming in and saying, hey, coach, did you see Miss, Miss so-and-so, what she was doing in Tahoe last weekend? I'm like, no, guys, sorry. But So the best way is just to email me. It's brian.market@NLCINC, so Nancy Larry Charles Inc.com, and that's the best way. That's my work email. I'm on it all the time because we've been Zooming and everything else. So so that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I would love to. Just anyone who has anything, even if they just had some things that they felt worked for them, I'm 100% open to hearing because, obviously I'm a guy who loves base running, but I don't know it all.
Yeah.
I learn from everyone. I'm even watching games and trying to pick up what other coaches are doing. What is that kid doing on the base pads that makes him successful? Mm-hmm. Is it something of his own, or is it something that is a strategy that the coach's philosophy on that? So I'm always trying to learn and get better because that's the way we can help our kids, and that's what it's all about. I mean, I've been fortunate to be pretty successful, but it's always because of our kids, you know?
Right.
It's the kids that we coach and trying to